Kevin McCarthy is not a complicated dude. People who cover him or know him will really not dispute that fact. There's no deep political strategy behind what he does, nor does there appear to be particularly zealous ideological motivation. Right now, Kevin McCarthy wants to stay in power as Speaker of the House. He likes that job. He wants to be the Speaker. He will do whatever it takes to accomplish those goals. And partly we know this because back in 2016, when no one thought Donald Trump was going to take over the Republican Party, this is what the same Kevin McCarthy had to say about him.
He begins by saying, I'll guarantee you that's what it is. The Russians hacked the DNC and got the op research that they had on Trump. And then McCarthy laughs. McCarthy then adds, there's two people I think Putin pays, Rohrabacher and Trump. There's then laughter by some of the lawmakers in the room, and then McCarthy adds, swear to God.
But then Trump won, and it became clear to the likes of McCarthy and every other Trump skeptic in the party that proximity to him was crucial for retaining power. In one particularly telling example, while having dessert on Air Force One, McCarthy noticed Trump was eating only red and pink Starburst candies. So he bought a bag, and he had an aide pick out only those two flavors and then delivered them in a jar to Donald Trump in the White House with his own name on it. For what it's worth, Trump was reportedly giddy with this gesture, I can imagine. That is the kind of stuff Kevin McCarthy is willing to do to ingratiate himself to the source of power in Republican politics. So today, McCarthy announced he is getting to work plucking Donald Trump's red and pink Starbursts out of the bowl in a far more dangerous and craven fashion by endorsing the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden that the ex-president has been loudly demanding, including apparently at a dinner with McCarthy's top advisor, Marjorie Taylor Greene, over the weekend. It's obvious why Greene and her folks want impeachment, but it's not obvious what they think it should be for. Like, think about the one-sentence description. In 1868, Andrew Johnson was impeached because he defied Congress and sabotaged Reconstruction after the Civil War. In 1998, Bill Clinton was impeached because he had a sexual affair with an intern and then lied about it under oath. Donald Trump was impeached twice, once in 2020 for using the power of his office to extort the president of Ukraine to dig up dirt on his political opponent. A second time in 2021 for inciting a deadly riot at the Capitol on January 6th. What's the one-sentence version of this one? We don't know why Joe Biden's the subject of an impeachment inquiry. No Republican's been able to describe it so succinctly. That said, the political math of this is not hard to understand. You see, McCarthy has a 5-vote margin in the House. He's got a faction in his conference that is devoted to Donald Trump. He probably right now does not have the votes to either pass a must-pass spending bill or to get a House vote on an impeachment inquiry. So he's got the votes for neither, and he's trying to pull off a miracle by, combining them to get the votes for one, maybe? In the meantime, alienating all sides of his party? So today he announced an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden without a vote, something he strenuously objected to back when the Democrats controlled the House, in fact, introduced a congressional resolution opposing it. And he's doing this ridiculous exercise, again, without a vote, hoping that that will help him get the votes he needs to pass the must-pass funding bills and keep the government open. So far, I'm not sure that's working.
Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you.
Now, that guy's bark to bite ratio is like 10,000 to 1, so I wouldn't take too much stock there. But McCarthy, in trying to do this thing, right, I'll give you the impeachment inquiry, give me the votes. It's like a guy who loans a ton of money and a loan shark's after him, and it's up against a deadline, so he goes to a second loan shark to take another loan to pay off the first loan shark. Maybe you get through today and you wake up tomorrow, but eventually it's all going to come due. Right now, the idea that it is politically advantageous to go along with impeaching Joe Biden is belied by the fact that McCarthy doesn't have the votes to do it. He doesn't have the votes to open an inquiry. And the reason he doesn't is because the very swing district Republicans he needs on his side for such a vote understand the politics are terrible.